Rams, welcome back from the break and to another week of Hunter's Hotspot. College sports are getting back into the swing of things and CSU football is quickly approaching. But let's keep the focus on the pros for now, and what better to get started off with than the NBA Finals. Game 4 of the Finals tipped off as tonight's news show got going at 7. Going into tonight, the Lakers led the Heat in the series 2-1. The first two games of the series, it looked like it was going to be an easy sweep for the Lakers because of the poor defense by the Heat on the LA Stars, LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But in Game 3, Miami Heat star Jimmy Butler put the team on his back, giving them a glimpse of hope for the rest of the series. In the victory, Butler recorded a triple-double with 40 points, 13 assists, and 11 rebounds. It is vital that Butler continues to produce for his team if they want a chance at winning this series. The Heat have been hit with the injury bug at the worst possible time, missing Bam Adebayo and their second leading scorer, Goran Dragic, in the first 3 games. With Adebayo dealing with a neck injury tonight and Dragic still out with a foot injury, it forces the Heat's offense to run through Butler once again. It will be important for Butler to stay aggressive on the offense while also looking for help from teammates like rookie Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, who have been killing it from behind the arc throughout the playoffs. Switching to the defensive side of the ball, the Heat are going to have to shut down LA's 2 main scoring options, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, in order to have a chance to even up the series. In Games 1 and 2, the Heat's interior defense was atrocious, allowing Davis to score over 30 points in both games and LeBron to score at least 25. Davis was tearing up the Heat's zone defense, and in Game 3, the Heat focused on keeping the ball out of Davis's hands, and that's what got the win for him. For the Lakers, the key is going to be getting that ball into Davis's hands. In Game 3, Davis only had 15 points on 9 field goal attempts. That is less than half of the points that he had in both of the first 2 games. Another thing that the Lakers will need to do is slow down Jimmy Butler and make sure that he doesn't score another 40 points again. We all know what LeBron is thinking, and that is vengeance after a loss. So the Butler-LeBron matchup is going to be a fun one to watch. Switching from one professional sport to another, from the NBA to the NFL, let's take a look at the impact that COVID-19 is having on pro football. Last week, right after Week 3 concluded, the Steelers and the Titans game was postponed due to COVID-19 outbreak with the Titans organization. Tennessee currently has 10 players on COVID-19 reserve list, but as of yesterday, they seeming to have none, and it seems to be like it is more under control, with no new cases reported. The Steelers and the Titans game has been rescheduled for Week 7 in the NFL season, with both teams switching their bye weeks to Week 4. The Titans are scheduled to play the undefeated Bills on Sunday. If the Titans continue to have no positive tests over the rest of the week, there's a much higher chance that the game will be played. Tennessee wasn't the only team affected by COVID last week. Patriots quarterback Cam Newton tested positive for COVID on Saturday, right before the New England matchup against the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs. As a result of the positive test, the Patriots and the Chiefs game was moved to yesterday, where veteran backup Brian Hoyer filled in as the starter. Under the Monday night lights, Hoyer struggled, throwing for only 130 yards and an interception, and also losing a fumble in the process. Hoyer was eventually benched for the second-year pro Jarrett Stidham, who came into the game and threw for 60 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions, including a pivotal pick 6 when Tyrann Mathieu, with Cam Newton out for the rest of the season, for the foreseeable future, the Patriots are going to be in trouble at the quarterback position. With countless injuries and COVID tests hitting the NFL all at once, your fantasy team may be in shambles. But don't worry though, I am here as always to give you some advice on how you can make your team whole again. This week, I want to focus on players that you should trade away in order to have a more complete team and gain some assets for the future. Starting this week off, the first player that I want to talk about is Bengals running back Joe Mixon. Last week against Jacksonville, Mixon had a monster performance, scoring 3 touchdowns and having over 150 rushing yards. This week for performance is going to look good on paper when you're trying to get rid of Mixon. In weeks 5 and 6, Mixon will be facing 3 of the top 10 rushing defenses in the Ravens and the Colts. This means that Mixon will come nowhere close to the amount of fantasy points that he did in the last week against the Jacksonville defense. I recommend reaching out to those owners that have either Austin Eckler or Nick Chubb, 2 star runners who were out with injuries last week. These owners will be in need of a number 1 running back and will be desperate with all of the lack of waiver wire space there is. Next up, I am recommending that you trade DK Metcalf as soon as you can. I'm not suggesting that you trade Metcalf because he's a bad player, but because with recent injuries, you are probably in need of a player at a different position. If you already have a bunch of depth at receiver, Metcalf is a player that you could spare trading for a massive price. Metcalf is currently the number 2 receiver in both standard and PPR leagues and is averaging 14 points per game. With these stats, owners are going to be very eager to add Metcalf to their team. However, looking at the schedule, once again, things get a lot more difficult after week 5 for the wideout. The Seahawks still have to play the Cardinals twice this year, and the Cardinals are the 3rd-ranked pass defense in the NFL. The Seahawks also play their other division rivals in the 49ers and the Rams, who are both in the top 10 for the lowest weekly points allowed to receivers. Even though Metcalf is an ascending talent, he will be facing much better defenses as the season continues. The pace that he's on right now is not sustainable, and his quarterback, Russell Wilson, is bound to slow down as the season goes on, which hurts his overall value. The final player that you should trade away is Cooper Kupp for the LA Rams. Kupp has had 2 decent games in the past couple of weeks with a touchdown in both games, but the next 3 weeks he faces the top 10 pass defense in the league. Next week he will be taking on the Washington football team. That's all we have for tonight, but make sure to tune in tomorrow night.